Hey guys, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to the build of the Aviation design aircraft. Beautiful plane. Before we get into anything further, let's roll the new intro. All right guys, in this video we're doing all the organization and all the equipment setup, installation of the radio system and all that kind of stuff. All the stuff on the inside of the plane. Plus we're going to be doing a few more miscellaneous things like changing out some of these decals right here. What do we got? JetCat, Futaba. Unfortunately those things need to come off. So thanks guys for watching the videos. If you have any questions or comments, make sure you list them down below. And let's hop into this portion of the plane build. All right, guys, we had an awesome package show up today. It was opened by customs and resealed by customs. What is it? Does that give you a hint? All right, let's open this thing up. This is a tank from CM Jets. This is exciting. Okay guys, so if you need a custom tank, talk to Carlos, CM Jets. I'll put a link to their website down below, and they've got tons of tanks that they make for lots of different planes, but if you have something specific, one-off, whatever you need, check them out. Does absolutely beautiful work, and this, you guys will get a kick out of this. All right, there we go. What does it say? The lighter side of RC. Very cool. That is awesome. So this is my custom smoke tank for the Diamond. Beautiful, beautiful tank. This is really, really cool. Basically, this fits, I'll show you guys during the build, but this fits perfectly in the little inlet in the front. He will custom make your tank for you. You can do press-on fittings, Festo fittings. I like the press-on fittings for this application, so that's what I asked for. The clunk's already installed, which is super cool. So thanks, Carlos at CM Jets. Very, very happy to have this tank going in this plane. This is awesome. And also happy to have the channel's name on there. That is super cool. Appreciate it. All right, and they also sent this little tool, some decals. Those will definitely end up on the plane. Thank you. Just going to unthread the clunk and let's take a look at the inside of the tank and everything. Cool. Already wired and everything with a heavy-duty clunk. Some Tygon tubing, some safety wire. Awesome work. Beautiful work. That is super cool. So again, thank you CM Jets. Thank you Carlos for providing me with this tank. I appreciate it. It's going to be a perfect fit for this Diamond. Guys, we are going to do a full smoke system install. There's been a bunch of you guys that have asked for it. A video on smoke system install, how to do it, the ins and outs of it. So what I'll do is look for that very, very soon. I'll put that together during the build process, and it will just be purely about the smoke install, where to put the nozzle, you know, all the ins and outs about plumbing, programming your radio, the different smoke pumps and setups that you can use. We'll talk about that in a future episode very soon because it's going to be involved with the Diamond. All right, so with the canopy area done, the next thing I'm moving on to is basically organization. Now, there's not a lot I can teach you guys on the organization other than just making sure things work. So what I'm doing now is I've got my wires organized. I still have to run wires from the front for the batteries back to this area, but I'm basically just laying things out to get a general idea on how we're going to install things. So I'm not going to video most of the organizing process, but I'll just talk you through a little bit about why I'm doing what I'm doing. So The fuel pump and stuff is going on the tray in the front. The reason for that is we have the lines coming off the tank, feeds into a T, and then going right into the UAT. We've got the pump right beside the UAT, which is nice short lines. Okay, so that's the reason for the fuel pump going up here. Now, the smoke tank, when I get it, it'll be sitting here, and the main feed is coming backwards this way. So I'm putting the smoke pump back here, so it's going to be a fairly direct feed to the smoke pump, and then the output of the smoke pump goes straight up and to the plate up here, and then backwards to the smoke system. So that's the reason for that stuff. The other control units, I basically don't want any of that mounted on top, just for cleanliness. I've seen some guys in pictures put their plate up here and have all their receivers and everything mounted up top here, and I'm just not into that. So I put all my stuff, I'm going to be putting it down below. We have lots of areas where we can hide the wires underneath, so that'll be nice and clean and organized. Now, one thing with this plane is it actually has some pretty unique channels. So I've run some string through those areas. So basically we go underneath this area here, underneath this wing tube on the outside portion of the airframe, like it's hidden down there, and then we come out at the front. So I've run the strings here just because I know I'm going to be running different wires and stuff in those areas, and having the string down there already is just easier because I can feed my wire through fairly easy right now. So I've done that. So the rest of this stuff, guys, I'm just going to do it, and if I run across anything interesting, I will show you, but otherwise I'm just going to start organizing the electronics in this airplane. So just a little update for you guys. I'm just working on the wiring harnesses. Now, one of the things with this plane, because your batteries are going on the front and your electronics are all going 3-4 feet behind, is you need a lot of wires. So I'm actually thinking, how much wire do we add to this plane? Because we need one for each receiver. We need one for the 3-cell LiPo on the retracts and lighting system. And then we need another one of these for the smoke pump. And then if we do end up putting the turbine battery in the front, we need another one that's about 1.5 feet long, because the connector's right here. So I'm just curious what 3 of these things weigh. So I got 82 grams. So ratio wise, 245 grams. So we're just over half a pound. 1 pound is 454 grams. Well, in case you didn't know, now you know. All right, guys, did a custom wiring harness here for the 3-cell LiPo. So basically we've got the connection here, which goes to the front of the plane. That comes towards the back of the plane. And we've got a plug-in MPX connector. I'll show you where that goes. So that's going in the groove right there, is where that little plug is going to sit. Then what plugs into the plug is our light switch, which is the on-off switch for the Sky Candy landing lights. So what we have here is a round LED switch, that one there. So when it's on, the red LED glows red. And basically it's a 3-prong switch. So you've got positive in, positive out, so the switched out. Then you've got the negative side, which is what's required to light the LED up. So that plugs in to the MPX port, and without this plugged in and the switch on, the light power doesn't work. So you've got the light connector here. This is what's going to feed the entire lighting system, and then this is the gear connector here. So you've got your red input, which is feeding the gear side, you can see there. So that's always on. The output from the switch is the next set of 3 over or 2 over, the blue wire there and the orange wire. And then that's why this side also comes to the switch side, and then our negatives all come to the negative side. So that's going to help keep things clean, and I will get that installed, but we do need to run these wires to the front of the plane first. All right, guys, in preparation for installing the light set, I want to take molds of the tips on the wing tips, and we're going to do the front and the back of the vertical stab. And the reason I want to do that is if we want to try and mold lenses later on, things like that, obviously we need the wing tips or any of the tips to be able to do that stuff. So before I cut this off, I'm going to take molds of all of the pointy surfaces. So we're just using this material here, Mold Star 30, and it's pretty straightforward to use. You just mix volume, one part, and pour it in, let it cure. All right, so there's a shot for you guys. I got my measurements pretty much perfect, bang on. There's a little bit left in there. I didn't have the ability to scrape it out, but if I leave that in there, I can probably pull it out afterwards. Anyway, so we're going to set this in a level spot to cure for about 6 hours is what it takes. All right, guys, so we took the smoke tank from CM Jets and we added this lip on there and that lip, I guess, piece of wood, if you want to call it that, on there. And the reason for those pieces of wood is this one sits on the gear tray in the bottom of the airframe, and this one sits on that front bulkhead former, and that supports the tank. Just to show you in the airframe, so this one sits right down here, and the back one sits right here. Now you could probably just put the tank inside the opening there, but if you did that, all the weight's sitting on the bottom skin, and the skin has a little bit of flex to it, not so much in this area because it's supported here and here, but I wanted to put the weight on the formers, not on the actual skin itself. And obviously now we put 2 Allen key bolts or 2 screws through the front here, and everything's nice and solid. This tank's not going anywhere. The other tanks that butt up to this aren't going anywhere as well. And then in order to get that CM Jet smoke tank in here, we had to sand out the formwork here. A little bit on the sides, about 1/4 inch on the side, and about the same on the back section here as well. And of course that side too. All right, so I'm just doing the 3rd wing tip or point. The other 2 have worked out awesome. This is the forward vertical stab tip. That's the wing tip. And now I'm doing the rear tip. So all I do is put the cardboard tube. I'm using a little bit smaller size tube on this one. It doesn't stick to the cardboard either, which is great. Put it over, tape it on the bottom, make sure you got excess on the top. Measured my materials out as per the instructions, and I need to mix that up. Now all we do is pour the material into the mold. We'll just make sure we stick to one side so it flows into the bottom by itself. This particular mix takes quite a while to cure, so it'll stay flowy for an hour, hour and a half, something like that, before it actually starts to solidify. There we go, the tube's covered, and then we'll just go close to the top. The other cool thing with the extras that you get from mixing this stuff up is this makes great epoxy mixing plates. I've been waiting to do this for quite a while. So when you mix the epoxy on this, like Hysol as an example, it doesn't stick to the silicone. Nothing sticks to silicone except silicone. So you can mix it on there, and then when you're the next day, let's say, you can just peel the Hysol off and you've got a nice clean mixing plate again. So you can save your bottoms of your cups and make mixing plates. All right, guys, so other than dealing with those wing tip molds or tip molds, I've just been basically organizing the diamond for the past couple days. A lot of this has been just routing wires, figuring out where things are going to go. Now the gear controller's mounted, the smoke pump's mounted. We're going to take the smoke pump back out when we do the smoke pump install because I want to hook that up and show you guys a couple things. But so what we've got here is we've got stuff organized based on where it was going, and that's why the routing of the wires took so long. So as an example, these are all my light system wires back here. We still have to run one for the front gear. but the light system, all the wiring is going to be going down there, right? We've got the power for the gear controller. We've talked about that. We've got the power for the wire light setup. So that's what that one's for. And all that ties into the MPX plug that's mounted there. This is the smoke pump lead. So that just goes out, routes underneath the channel, and then comes back this way. We've got the smoke pump power there, which is dedicated directly from the front. And then we've got all the wires for the stuff. So that's what that bundle of wires is. That's all the surfaces, the gear, controllers, all that kind of stuff. That's what that bundle is. And then what we need to do is make up wires going from the gyro to the JR11BPX. So those will just be short little power box wires. This comes with those wires if I can find them. I think I've got extras and I'll use those ones most likely, but we'll see what happens there. So that is what I've been working on. Put a couple connectors here for the fuel tubing. This is the main turbine supply. All right, so many wires, guys. So many wires. So I think I have all of the wires run that I need to. Everything's been run to the front. Have all the turbine stuff and the telemetry stuff run. Pretty sure I have everything. Hopefully there's nothing left out. Did all the channel mapping as well for all the channels, and set up my X-bus converters, my PWM converters, sorry. So now we're using 15 channels on this airplane, and we're using 2 of the converters with 2 channels each. So we've got 11 channels there, and then 4 channels on the X-bus outputs. So with that being done and everything being run, I think it's time to put the receiver setup in here, start making servo ends out of all this mess, and start getting stuff plugged in. All right, guys, been working on this for a couple hours now, and the layout of the electronics is essentially done. It's been quite a bit of work. There is a mess of wires that goes into everything in here, and most of it is hidden underneath and basically around everything, which is great. Really happy with this install. It worked out good, nice and clean, very organized. We still have the light system to install in this area, but of course we're doing that in a separate video, and some other plumbing things to deal with too. But for the most part, the core of the aircraft electronics layout is done. All right, guys, so now with things getting near completion for the organization portion, I'm going to put the wings on soon, but I got a little bit left to do before I put the wings on. So in the front section here, we've got to complete the plumbing on the intake side of the fuel system. We've got to do the vent system, and I want to put a little bit of cable organizer stuff on those power cables on the bottom of your screen, just to keep them fastened to the airframe. So I'm going to use some little plastic cable mount things. Anyways, that's what we are looking at. So I just put the tray back in just to check the plugs and everything. That plugs in well. We've got to organize our front, our main tray. Basically, I want to get the stuff done in the front of the airplane before I put the wings on to do all my setup. Because if you're trying to stand in this area and reach inside there, the wings are massive on this thing and they'll get in the way. So I'm going to take the smoke tank back out. That was just, I put it in just to get the holes drilled for everything. So we've got 2 mounting bolts down there and 2 up top here. So the wing tank is nice and solid. Now the main fuel tanks have a little bit of play, and the back end there can come out. So all I'm going to do with that, when I am 100% done and ready, I'm just going to put a little dollop of silicone in between the 2 tanks on both sides. Now that silicone, if you ever need to get the plumbing system out, all you have to do is take some safety wire, route it underneath, and just slice through it. But that little dollop of silicone is going to keep the tanks nice and stuck in place. All right, guys, plumbing in the front section here is done. So the primary pickups from the tanks are plumbed into the UAT, and then we've got the vent, which goes all the way to the top of the airframe, coming from the tanks. Also down at the bottom there, I installed the vent for the smoke system. So I'm not going to use a plug or anything on that. And that's where the vent is going to go for the smoke system. All right, guys, first time she's on her own legs, and I'm just going to do some initial C of G, just to check and make sure. I did some rough stuff last night, and we can fit all the batteries up front. So I have made the cable for the turbine battery, and because we've got so much movement here, or so much distance in front of the C of G, you know, putting the batteries back here makes a big difference. Putting them at the nose makes a big difference. My goal for this is to make it a little bit nose light. I want to add just a couple ounces of weight in the nose, just so we can take that off later if needed. So that's the goal with this. We've kind of rough put everything in here. So I took some of the lighting components and put it underneath there. We do have to put the wingtips on. We'll do that after, once we get all the measurements done. But the wiring and everything is done, and just going to set the scales up now and do the measurements. All right, guys, CG has pretty much been figured out. Initially, we do have a whole bunch of lead in the nose that I really wasn't expecting, but it's okay. So our total weight with the lead, we're at 43.5 pounds. The lead's about 1 pound of weight, so we're at about 42.5 pounds without. And then if we go to CG, so it's going to flick back and forth, but I know it says tail heavy, but we're at 0 pounds at correction point. So we're basically bang on the CG. And all the batteries are essentially moved forward as far as they can go. I'll show you guys what that looks like. So that's the battery setup. As I've talked about already before, I was worried that the turbine battery would not end up in the nose, but clearly it did end up in the nose, and we could upsize all the batteries, but we don't really need to because they're all very, very sufficient for what needs to be up there. So, which is fine. So we're going to have to add a bunch of lead in the nose, which is totally fine. This plane's never going to know the difference. Now, before I was talking about putting a plug-in plate up front here. Now, the reason I didn't go with the plug-in plate just to plug the batteries in is if I did the plug-in plate with these leads going through to the back side, this nose cone wouldn't be able to come off without cutting those leads. So I left them all as plugs just to keep things easy. And if we want to take this nose cone off, all we need to do is feed the battery leads through there. These servo leads stay on the nose cone itself. And then we've got our female servo leads on the other side, which easily slip through. So it just made more sense to do it that way, which is why I did it. Now we've got different plugs for all the different batteries, and that's going to keep things nice and simple. Obviously, we're going to do this again once we get all the light system installed. The smoke system is basically finished. I don't think I'm going to bother moving any of the equipment forward just because everything's built now. It would be a real hassle to rewire stuff and try and move stuff forward. It just doesn't make sense. So that's what we ended up with. Now for the C of G, we did end up filling the UAT. I did put a little bit of fuel in the tanks. We could put more in there as well too, but our C of G point is right here, and our tanks are mostly forward of the C of G, so it does make a difference when we have fuel in the tanks. So maybe for the final C of G, we're going to add a little bit more in there, just to make sure that it's accurate, because you're never going to run these tanks completely dry. I mean, we're going to have 1/2 inch, 1 inch of fuel in the bottom at minimum. So, but you know, I could take that smoke pump, try and move it forward. The problem with that is it's wired to that point, and then our lines are nice and short here because our feed for the smoke pump is right there. So it just makes more sense, I think, to have it where it's located. But that's everything for now, and good progress. All right, guys, airplane is back together on the stand. We've got the wing bolts done up, and the tanks are now fastened in semi-permanently. We put some silicone on the top of the tanks, so all three together on the front portion there, and then also right down there on the supports. So once that cures, everything will be nice and solid. Now, if you ever need to get the silicone out, you just put some fishing line through there, some safety wire, tuck it underneath. All 3 points have decent access, and just pull right through and it'll come out no problem. So that is a nice semi-permanent way to get those tanks fixed in. Of course, we've got the bolts done up for the smoke tank too. So check the telemetry. The telemetry works on the airspeed sensor and the turbine telemetry. Oh yeah, airspeed sensor. We tried that. That works out good. Blew into it with the air compressor and we got up to 170 kilometers an hour. We didn't put the air compressor right to it. We had it back here. So remember your air compressor safety. Never put the air compressor directly on your skin. You can inject yourself with air. It's very dangerous. All right, guys, a couple other things. So I got one of the antennas mounted on the tank. I'm just using shoe goop to fasten the mount that my buddy Joe made for me to the side of the tank. So we're doing 2 antennas at an angle like that, pointing vertical, and then this antenna is going to mount to the main startup plate and is going to be mounted like that. Other thing I did is I had to pull the front nose cone, if you want to call it that, nose mount or whatever, off. Reason for that is I never put Loctite on the bolts holding the front gear on, so I did that. Other thing is because we're putting the batteries so far towards the nose, this plate has quite a bit of flex in it. Back here it's good because of the supports. So I took some carbon rod, these are some old wing tubes, and I used some West Systems, the 610 stuff, and glued those down. So we used quite a bit of epoxy on there. Obviously I'm not worried about weight because we have all that weight we need to add to the nose. So this is going to help to stiffen up the entire nose section, and putting the batteries on the very end of the nose. This is the underside of it. On the very end of the nose, this is going to help to make it so the plate's not flexy. All right, guys, it was time to get the nose cone installed because the batteries are pretty much sorted out. So we went with kind of the standard nose cone installation as per the manual. Now the manual calls for 3 screws. So 1, 2, and then 1 on the other side for 3. I went with 5. So we have 1, 2, 3, 1 matching on the other side. And then we've got 2 kind of on the bottom here as well. All of the bottom ones are in the carbon vinyl. And there's just that single one in the top. So nice and inconspicuous. We can paint those side and bottom screws black. And then I can use the orange and paint this guy orange. So it'll be pretty much hidden. Now we just kind of tying up loose ends tonight. So basically drilled the holes for the fuel tubing, mounted the receiver on the main board there, put my smoke and fuel line attachments. So the fuel fill and the smoke fill will come up through those holes and then just clip into the different clips. All the silicone holding the tank is dry now. The shoe goop holding this receiver mount is dry, and I'm just doing a couple other, again, little loose ends. So we're just putting some of these cable holders in place for the receiver cable. 1 holder down there for the GPS and receiver cable. Thank you, Joe, for those pieces. They are awesome. I love these little round buttons. You can see I used one back here on the data terminal one, and awesome because it clips in and then it goes sideways and holds it in. That's a really slick design. So this is pretty near done. Just waiting for those things to dry, and then we're pretty much ready to go for the installation. Now I'm going to take the nose cone off and kind of sort out where the batteries and the battery fastening system. Now initially I had all the batteries kind of bundled up together in one massive pack, but that won't fit unfortunately because the nose cone comes down too close. So we're going to put some of these batteries in the front, some right behind, and figure out a fastening system for the batteries. All right, guys, batteries got all sorted out. So this is as far forward as I can run these batteries just because they start to hit on the nose cone. So that's totally fine. Tuck these ones up as tight as I could. The batteries are laying on top of a piece of foam. Now, the nice thing about the piece of foam, really, it's not for vibration at all. Probably the best thing about it is it sticks really well to this blue stuff, and it's pretty grippy. So obviously there's a bit of vibration there as well too. But so batteries are sorted. That is awesome. Okay, so I'm just going to start to put things together here, guys, so we can do our setup and test runs and stuff. So next thing I'm going to do is put the plate in and just get the plumbing for the turbine itself all set up. All right, guys, and there she is with the plate installed and everything ready to go. Now, we don't have the smoke system hooked up, don't have the smoke system fill hooked up, and none of the lights are hooked up. So that's not set up yet, but basically this plane is ready to test the engine. Well, guys, even though the plane has not flown yet, we just gained 50 miles an hour by pulling the Futaba and JetCat stickers off. Whoa, 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 whoa. Don't get triggered, guys. I know if you're a JetCat or Futaba lover, it's all in good fun. We just have fun with this kind of stuff, right? All right, guys, there is some initial removal and replacements of some stickers. We've got CM Jets there, JR, and King Tech. All right, guys, little plug for Sky Candy here. I was chatting with Sal today and the guys at Sky Candy. They put together a discount code for viewers, for you guys, for viewers of the channel, and it is valid till January 1st, 2021. So we've got about 3 weeks-ish to use the discount code. The discount code, when you go to the checkout at skycandylandinglights.com, that's their website. So when you do your order and your checkout and everything, if you enter the discount code, I'll put it on the screen here, the lighter side, all capitals, that will give you 15% off your order. And again, valid till January 1st, 2021 at midnight. So thanks to the guys at Sky Candy Landing Lights for putting that together for you guys. All right, guys, that is everything for this episode. We got all the miscellaneous stuff done on this aircraft, and we are ready to go. So other than our smoke system install video and our light system install video, we are going to have one more video of the Diamond construction process. That next video about the Diamond is going to be number 1, a turbine run for the first time, which is exciting, always exciting. Then we've got a bunch of the last miscellaneous things to fix, tie up, all the loose ends. So we've got servos coming for this plane, new servos, and I'll explain that in the video. We've got to do the engine run, and we've got a little bit of other miscellaneous things here and there to get done, but it's going to be the last wrap-up video, primarily focused around the turbine running. So thanks, guys, for tuning into the channel. If you have any questions or comments, list them down below, guys. Just a forewarning for you, the Sky Candy Landing Lights installation video for this aircraft, we are going to be doing some giveaways on that video. So keep an eye out for it. Keep an eye out for the instructions in the video. It's going to be coming very, very soon. We got a ton of cool things happening in the channel, guys. We got a new MyBo delivery box showed up today, which is awesome, super exciting. So thanks, guys, for tuning in. We will see you in the next video.